Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, good morning everybody. My name's Adam. This is my TA Holden. We're going to be kind of walking around helping everybody out. Yeah, grab a seat, or just go grab a seat and actually bring it in. It's not a big deal, you don't actually need a table. So first thing, the class is going to be very interactive. We're going to actually have you set up an environment so that you are working on your own. To start with, we are going to need VirtualBox. So go to virtualbox.org/wiki/downloads and get whichever is appropriate for your host operating system.
If you just raise your hand or flag me down, my whole goal in here is to help you if you get stuck.
I'm going to have trouble doing this thing back and forth. Just grab a chair. Like from the hallway or in the other room.
There's one right here.
More chairs? Grab your chairs. Bring in chairs.
Hey Dave, we're just grabbing VirtualBox. We're grabbing VirtualBox.
Yeah, download VirtualBox on your computer.
Can you grab a chair?
Does it have 2 minutes? Okay. After you have VirtualBox, you're also going to need this file. GitHub.com/AutomatedEmpire/Ansible class. You can either get plugged in the repo or just go look at the file, copy it. Or type it in if you're feeling especially plugged. GitHub.com/AutomatedEmpire/Ansible class. Come on in, just grab a chair. So we're going to do a couple different things in here. First, we're going to set up our environment using Vagrant, so that'll be a lot of fun, new exciting times. We're also going to play a lot with SSH. We're going to play a little bit with Ansible. We're going to play a little bit with Python. We're going to read a bunch of documentation. Super exciting, I know. Need flags for like when people are done with steps.
Flag.
Okay, I'm done. Like green flag, red flag. It's
Let me work on that.
cool.
Hey, what is the wireless?
SecureWV guest, and the password is HackerCon, spelled like it is out on the board here. Does everyone have VirtualBox? Who does not have VirtualBox? Show of hands.
My developers.
Okay, cool. This is going to be... Let me try one more time to get this thing mirrored on my screen properly. Otherwise, I'm going to have to be looking back and forth between a bunch of times. Hey, there we go. Here. Okay. Awesome.
Everybody holds up one or the other.
Excellent. All right, everybody gets paper.
Everybody got a pen? Anybody need a pen? I don't have very many, but Like a D on one side, D on the side with the RTD.
Actually, check mark in X. That'll be easier.
Huh?
Check mark in X. It'll be easier to see
Check mark
across
in
the
X. Or writing, no writing.
Sure.
Where there's no writing involved.
That'll
This
work.
means done, this means need help.
Yes.
There you go.
Check mark 2 months.
Check mark 2 months writing.
Okay.
That's a really good idea.
I didn't expect it full of people. I expected it like 5 or 10. Easy to do. Hang out. Here we go.
What side means writing?
Done?
Yeah.
Need help. White side needs help.
Okay, gotcha. You give up, kind of.
Yes. White flag is giving it.
Yeah. I was having trouble with the action
Beautiful.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate
You're welcome.
Okay. Does everybody have vagrant flags?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I had to
Vagrant file? Everybody got it? Yes, no? Flags, please.
Do we need an OS?
Vagrant is going to yank down a box for you. So the magic of Vagrant is you get a fresh box every single time you want to do this. So you can reset and re-provision in a consistent environment.
Okay, in other words, that's the whole point of here.
What's that?
That's the whole point of being here.
Yep. Okay.
So it kind of gives you that initial cloud provisioning piece.
Got it.
Okay, so we've got that. VirtualBox. This last thing we need bigger? Actually, bigger. Okay. And last but not least. Everyone also needs to get Vagrant, which is vagrantup.com. Both of these tools for today. As soon as you are done, put up your flag for done, please.
Is Vagrant outside the environment? Or
It's on your host to start with.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Vagrant and VirtualBox should both be local to your host.
Yep. Once we have both of those things set up, we're not going to actually work on your host anymore. We're going to be entirely inside the virtualized environment, so that way we're not messing anything up on your box. As soon as you have both VirtualBox and Vagrant, hold up your magic flag that says I am done.
So download Vagrant for your OS.
Yes.
A particular version of VirtualBox can you use?
Whichever the latest is, 5.2 I think.
5.0.
That's probably good enough. Shouldn't be a problem. Nah, it'll be alright. I think that's actually what the VirtualBox is.
Install Vagrant on our VirtualBox?
On your local machine, install Vagrant and also install VirtualBox.
Okay, so you have VirtualBox already installed.
Yep. All you have to do is install Vagrant after that.
So what Vagrant's doing is actually interacting with the API of VirtualBox behind the scenes.
So, yeah, if you don't know, Vagrant is what Colton was just saying. It's basically a nice interactive API layer. We don't need to do a bunch of the vagaries of like VBox manage. It does all that for you in a nice, easy, automated way.
You can actually push your own boxes and stuff up here. So if you get like even if you get an insecure box that you always want to be insecure the same way, you can just push it up here and pull it back down. Build it for you.
All right. All right. Okay. Once you have both of those things downloaded, make a new directory in your home folder or wherever else is convenient for you. And make sure that the Vagrant file from here is in that folder.
Where was that Vagrant file at?
GitHub.com/automatedempire/Ansible class.
That's class.
Yep. Let's have that. Okay. You're going to type Vagrant up. I think mine are actually already started, so. Yes, they are. Okay.
Is that in your virtual box now?
In just a local terminal on your machine.
So if I'm running Windows, I should probably
Command prompts. Yep. Make a directory, and then I'm pretty sure installing Vagrant puts it on your prompts. Pretty sure.
Yeah, it should put it in your path.
So. And this is also why we're doing all this stuff virtualized, because Ansible does not work from a Windows host. You specifically have to be on a Linux host. So if we're all in virtual environments, then we're all on Linux, and everything works out honky-dory.
Just do Vagrant up.
Yep.
Yeah.
It will take a couple of minutes. Mine is already up, which is why it went really fast.
We didn't have to specify that. We had to do it from inside that.
Create a directory,
Right.
make sure the Vagrant file is in that directory, and then type Vagrant up, and it will bring up the rest of the entire
But do it from
environment.
inside the directory.
Yes.
It automatically looks for the Vagrant file in the directory you're
Yeah.
in. If you ever just want to create your own, not start from anywhere, you just type Vagrant in it, just like you type Git in it to make a Git directory, and it'll build a default file for you that you can start customizing.
That is going. Alright, so while it's going, I'll actually talk a little bit about Ansible, so you guys want to get all that started because it takes a few minutes. Okay, so who I am, I'm actually more of a software engineer, data scientist guy, general tech wizard. GitHub.com/AutomatedEmpire is my GitHub account, and at Automated Empire, find me on Twitter. That's also my PGP key signature and email address, so if you want to get in touch with me there. So Ansible. What Ansible actually is, their official definition is it's an IT automation framework. That's a really, really fancy way of saying that it's a language for describing computer states. Instead of trying to go in and write scripts and try to write programs and all of these other things to make a computer be the way you want it to be, you use the Ansible configuration to tell the computer how you want it to be. You don't really care that in the intermediate steps how it gets to be that way. All you care about is that it is that way. Ansible is what's known as idempotent, and that means, if you're a math geek, that if you apply a function, it's the same as applying the function back to itself again. So multiplying by 1, always going to get the exact same result every single time. Add 0, same result every single time. There are ways that you can make Ansible not idempotent, but there are ways around that as well. By default, all of these standard modules will not screw things up if you run them over and over and over again. In fact, that's literally what it encourages you to do, because that way the state remains consistent over time. So Ansible is an agentless IT automation framework. So you don't actually need to install anything on the machines you intend to manage, other than either SSH or WinRM, depending on which environment you're in, and Python. You need at least Python 2.6 on the target machine. But again, that's very, very standard across just about everything. Ansible is configured using YAML. Next slide. It is a very Pythonic syntax, very also similar to JSON if you're familiar with that. just a way of actually describing the data that you're going to use and describing the machine states. All YAML files for Ansible start with 3 dashes at the top, and everything, it's a little hard to tell on here, but it's space indented just like Python is. One kind of important note that in the most recent version of Ansible 2.4, they changed this include to be a deprecated part of the API. So it's now import task. But we're still going to use include because the newest version of Ansible is not available everywhere. So for now, you can simply ignore the deprecation warning. No big deal. If you happen to have a brand new environment and everything is the newest and the shiniest, use import task instead if you intend to never ever manage anything old. So everything starts with a, it doesn't have to, but you can define a name for each individual part, and that will actually, when you run the file, put out in the console, or the logs, either one, exactly that string so that you can tell what's going on and when, step by step down through. Hosts will tell you which ones of the actual machines that you're working on to run the information against. So if you only want to configure small parts of your network at a time, or if you're only doing, say, your web server versus your database servers, you can specifically say, only configure my web servers like this, only configure my database servers like this. And then you specify a list of tasks, which will do interesting information setup for them. The main thing, you can keep going down the chain. Every single one of these individual tasks can also have names. I didn't include that everywhere. Like this one, you're specifically using the debug module to print out a message that just says, hey, I'm starting it. And then we just include a couple of extra tasks for the inclusion of tasks is really nice because that way you don't have one massively increasingly inflating playbook for this. That's another important terminology. Ansible uses what they call playbooks, and it's basically the master configuration file. It does a bunch of other importing, and can do a bunch of other importing, stuff like that, but playbooks are the standard terminology for the individual chunk of thing you're configuring. Okay, the other thing that Ansible relies on is an inventory, and the inventory you can specify in an INI configuration such as this, or you can use YAML as well. I personally like the INI files, but that's why I have it here. Ansible is also really nice because it has a bunch of modules that allow you to do this dynamically. So let's say you're not just managing a small random cluster of virtual machines in your local box. Let's say you're managing, an entire horde of servers in the cloud. There are like AWS plugins, there's Azure plugins that will go out and actually query your inventory in the cloud based on tags, based on a bunch of other information, based on host types, whatever else, and populate these files for you dynamically, so you don't have to actually individually manage it. It again makes it very, very nice to not have to worry about all one central place. All right, SSH keys. So because Ansible is really very nice with SSH, it uses the SSH layer for connecting to everywhere else, or WinRM. We're going to be specifically talking about SSH today because we're all in a Linux environment. One of the things that we don't want to have to keep doing, since we're automating things, is keep typing in passwords. That's going to take us forever. It's going to be annoying. So we want to have our keys generated and using SSH keys to log in across our entire environment. We also don't want to put a passwordless key because that's horrifically insecure. Don't ever do that, especially not in production. So what we're going to do is instead use the SSH agent. We're going to create the key, and we're going to load it into a place in RAM, and then we're going to let it handle all of the actual authentication across our servers. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Okay. So, show of flags. Who has Vagrant up finished? Not yet. Getting there?
Yeah, it's almost done.
Cool.
Is there anybody that's stuck, or are you guys just waiting for it to download?
So what about at the command prompt, you put that, the command line to type in I got everything downloaded.
Yeah.
Hi.
Quick question for you.
Sure.
So now that I have Vagrant downloaded, I just need to use command prompt to pick it up.
Yes.
And the vagrant file that you want us to have open in the Kali in the virtual box.
You need a folder on your local machine to have that vagrant file in it. You then need to change into the directory of whatever you created and then type vagrant up.
So you download a Windows in your local machine. Sometimes it will change outside.
I did. I restarted.
So, hey, we're not able to get it. Virtualization's getting denied on this. But we've got Ubuntu. We're going to be alright.
Yes.
All right. What is wrong with it?
Actually, you will have to do some special configuration stuff for that that we'll have to explicitly do for you, because otherwise...
If you can't get VirtualBox, not that
all we have to do is play with his hosts, because at the end of the day, that's all we care about. We'll just change all of his stuff to local.
Okay.
Everything else should still be the same, because once we have...
playbook locally against the machine.
Yeah, once we have the hosts file set up for it, we'll be in good shape. He can still use the exact same commands, it's just that it's not going to be SSHing across everywhere.
For some reason, yeah, we had to go into the BIOS and enable it, and it still says it's disabled.
Yeah, GitHub.com.
Did you say, I've got EFI enabled in the VirtualBox, they don't sign, Oracle doesn't have the kernel module signed, so it won't install. So, you say like, so I could run, I'm running Fedora, so I can
that's perfectly fine.
do my host.
So what we're going to do is, like, we're going to have, to start with that one single box that'll jump everywhere else. But you can run it on your local box, it's just going to make changes to your local box. The way we're doing this, it's a forward kind of state. There's no specifically like rollback ability. So you'll have to individually go and undo what we do on your local machine. I don't know if everything will
Well, I also have a bunch of VMs running in using KVM.
I am not sure. There's a way to make Vagrant with that. I'm not familiar enough with anything outside of Vagrant, but VirtualBox to be able to help with that. Do you know Vagrant on KVM?
Vagrant on KVM, are you trying to use a libvirt provider?
Hi,
Yeah.
come on in.
Okay. I've never done it before, but I'm happy to look over your shoulder. I've played with it a little bit, I should say. Most of the time I use
Actually, there's a
VirtualBox
seat right there if you want.
but yeah, you can totally Vagrant will hook to just about anything, including a libvirt provider. The image that we're giving to you, so go to Atlas for a second, I'll show you how. Can you go to, it's Vagrant Atlas, or it's like atlas.hash or something. But there's, I'll show you where we get these boxes, and I'll show you which feature starts out.
Alright, anybody else still stuck? Still getting files set up?
Still loading.
Okay.
Yes, you just download and install that.
This will also go a lot faster once everybody's actually up and
Once you
running.
install that, then you'll navigate.
So do you have to distribute the SSH keys beforehand before using?
Yeah.
There are ways you can.
Well, everybody else has got
What we're going to do, because I
downloaded.
assume everybody was starting from a blank state, we're going to generate the SSH keys. And then once you have them, before you actually run the playbook, it helps to distribute them out across. I think there's actually ways to do it with the playbooks, but it's a little bit screwier. You have to individually log into the servers and then you're putting in passwords, and that's super annoying. That's what we're going to do with SSH copy ID. It's just going to push our public key out to everywhere we care about putting it.
But you have to have an account on all the other servers.
Yes, you will need an account that has a root level permission or sudo permissions. And that's the box we're giving you has no password sudo, which is really nice. There's also ways you can prompt the user for the password. There are ways you can actually even store the passwords, but encrypted as well, so you don't have just plain text root password sitting on your environment because it's terrible.
What goes to is version it a little bit.
Yeah, lots of flexibility, and a lot of that is even way more advanced we're going to talk about today.
So you can
So much
actually customize and
I mean, my concern is always, how do you push out that initial key out there?
and just like
So the image, just like, if you're looking at cloud stuff, put it on the image yourself, and then just treat that as your up and down image. That way you're not having to constantly provision keys across the entire network.
simplicity. If you want to do that,
Or again, I think there is an actual way for the playbook, but it requires the password prompt the first time. But again, we're trying to automate it.
So just all depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, my problem is
So do you trust everything on Vagrant though? Like all these edition everything?
Trust, you mean?
So it's a repository of images, right?
Yes.
So you're pulling down, somebody else's images, or they're pulling down your 3 images, right?
It's actually from there. It's not my image specifically. It's the Ubuntu Xennial 64 image. So it's their official finished image, whatever. Everything is sandboxed, and that's the whole kind of purpose with doing this. We're not having to. It would have to be something completely screwy to escape out of that sandboxing, and I've never seen any complaints about it so far. Again, don't do it on your production environment. That's bad. But doing this locally for learning how to use the tools.
I just did that when I was done. I hit Baker.
You start to go out, set the server out there. I was trying to think how we could
a lot of your points. Maybe I just said watch.
Yeah, when I was in
that's an actual so once you get
I don't even know that.
So I want to give that a sale.
Damn piece of trash. I don't want to, because there's just so much on that. It's like,
And a command prompt.
I borrowed this one.
Did you get
This is the one I use for work, but I just popped the hard drive.
That makes sense.
And I just threw another one in it.
This is what I borrowed.
I
don't care what happens.
This is our old.
I borrowed one a month ago, and someone withdrew the license piece, and that was it says I'm not valid because it's not took license.
Well, that was the agreement. Like they would pay for me to get, but I have to do it. So I got the other hard drive in here that I would not, but I told him I was like, I'm not hooking our stuff up here. I was like, I'll do it. Oh, really? Yeah. I never thought about using my phone, but
you have any ads?
yeah. So the sad thing is, like, I brought a screwdriver and the other hard drive, so if I needed it, I'd just throw it in there.
Yeah, I understand.
I was like, I'm not carrying 2 laptops around.
Just name that with I don't know.
Yeah, this is smart thing.
But see where it says Ubuntu Xennial 64?
I had a Surface last year in one of the
any other machine is to change that. If you look back at the Atlas, you see where it said like CentOS and then /7. You would just type CentOS or Ubuntu and CentOS. It's super easy. So if you buy the libvirt provider on there, you can do it like that. But it's definitely added complexity because out of the box, virtual boxes works. Libvirt can be a little weird. Okay.
Wait,
Yes.
So Holden, we had to shut off completely for that BIOS change to the OS.
Where does that sound familiar? Like we had servers at work that we rebooted and it wouldn't do it, so you went into VMware and shut it off completely.
So I just need to point to the file from
you don't point to the file, you go into the directory itself. So cd into this directory on your PowerShell prompt there, and then you're just going to type egg or not.
it says that it's just change. Is it not going to work with CD?
Yeah, you're trying to combine a bunch of commands here. If you want to do that, put a semicolon there so you have 2 separate commands. You were asking to change directory and Vagrant and all in one command. It's not going to do with that. It's when you try to change directory and then it's got 2 arguments. It does not do it. So that's not correct. That shot. That might work. That should change a command for you. Yes.
Came up with this error. I did everything I can, trying to get it.
I see that way too much. So.
I haven't had the chance to actually.
So I had version.
It looks like it's kind of found down on this machine. So you type Vader, destroy it, it's go the entire environment away, and then recreate it.
Make sure.
If that doesn't work, we will actually go in and try to resolve it. When you type Vader, destroy, by the way,
Okay, so then just navigate to that font that
yeah,
it up.
this will bring it all the way down, all the way back up. It looks like it helps trying to reset your network.
Alright, so we just do backups.
And then just do a Vagrant halt. So Vagrant halt will stop your VMs, Vagrant destroy will stop and destroy them. What it's doing in the background is creating a link.
Oh, you didn't saw it.
So if you want to save state, do a Vagrant halt. If you just want to
Practice on Vagrant first case.
do Vagrant destroy.
You'll have to restart your command prompt.
That
That's
would
not have correct reset.
Alright, well, let's do this. Let's Control C that.
No problem.
Oh no,
And,
he's a good
just
command prompt.
CD into. Oh, now you CD it, right? Okay, so let's see what's going on.
Like that.
And you have a Vagrant file. And so when you type Vagrant status, let's just make sure it's even in your path.
No, just know the file you
It doesn't
download.
look like it knows
File
what
that come on that
log out, log back in. Sometimes it
Yeah,
does
so you
not
put
make
that
it
somewhere
back
wherever, like
to
the
install files.
or your C drive or somewhere.
So you restart your computer and you're sure
And then there's a file there, and then you type in Vagrant up from there.
The only other thing I can think is you're in the administrator prompt, so try going into your prompt that you're not an administrator in. I don't think that's the problem, but it's certainly something worth checking because it might add it to your local path and not to the system path. So that's on the path. Yes. Let's do that.
I have a second string with it, and I just pulled it and duplicated it.
I appreciate you so much. I'm seeing
This is a clean on the base, so when it's a
Three files.
file.
So it sounds like a file.
And those, it should be a little.
You want to
File starts to be that director. And maybe that's the way to
Make it into a directory.
Oh, you need that. Yep.
Open the terminal.
With the Vagrant file you want, try grabbing his first and make sure that goes down. That goes down.
Download. What did it do?
You have internet access.
That's the best stuff.
I'm having
I don't know if Facebook.
Yeah, just copy out some other emails.
I need the whole. I need the.
You're probably gonna need that license file at some point. So.
Well, I don't want to get the file.
Yeah, we'll be tough. Jump you up and I'll make that fair. And then go up a level or go back to project.
I just click on this. So I know I have to.
Go to command prompt, navigate to that. Yeah, and then type Vagrant up.
I downloaded the other status.
Yep, it's okay. So
Didn't bring up anything really that is
Yeah, so and then just like Vagrant up.
are you raising your hand or?
Yeah, it's like
I hate that.
Yeah, Vagrant up.
Just so it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and then this file.
No, just hit enter.
There we go. All right.
Let's go ahead and you got
One meeting like that.
What we'll do is start on the virtual machine as endless, so you don't have to worry about not it'll take that many minutes to get
I mean, it sounds like it's starting using
Alright, you're good. Yeah, and you'll sit here for a little bit.
400 years from now.
In a half an hour?
What version? What is that at? 50 or 7450? We have the new ones we have at 5570.
This is the old one.
Yeah. So we have the 5570s and they have a little battery. And the battery only comes with it. The only way we'll be able to figure it out is we just touch the super glue a little bit to the connector. Enough that, you know, it won't jiggle loose, but if you need to take it off, you can pop it off. I've had You're seriously
we go Google that quick.
because we have, showing up doing a client and not having, well, because it's back to you can't even plug it in. Because you're done. I said, what else you want me to do? Luckily, I figured that out.
Well, you can't dive in wrench. No proof. It says if you can. It's too positive. We have not proven the end.
I think I have to buy a car.
Yeah.
Logic. My Christmas present myself is gonna have.
You really were in no position to dodge anything.
I was in that position.
Well, that's what, I mean, I don't even
Anybody else?
I've got a
We
server
good?
and stuff.
Get there?
I mean, this, I use this.
It was probably times like an hour and a half, an hour.
I know you gotta set a couple of orders.
Who's always.
And I tried to read it one more time after that. Sometimes
Yeah, we had our.
You get tired of what was happening, you get tired of what
so this is just not
So, because we can watch it.
Set up, it's great.
Yeah.
Scrolling.
That's what I use upgrade like the OS and then I've got rid of
yes.
It's nice. But see, I put that back. Why would I pay?
We had to, so we just did a restart, the OS didn't sync up on the BIOS.
It'll bring up a lot of text. This is basically it'll start out.
A bunch of excitement.
I just have to do that.
See what I'm saying? As soon as we came out, the other one. One splatter of all that.
Yeah. See, I don't want to or when I do, I go down actually run the box. You see the break down the road, yeah.
My wife is the one who gets really upset.
Yeah, he gets upset when it goes down.
Okay, one more time. Good. Questions?
So
Answers?
I told her, I was like, do not ever shut the
Are you connected to the
Yeah, she was in there turning it off.
What's your
She didn't realize that's where all the TV, all the stuff on the TV came from. So then I don't want to turn it off. Yeah. Good luck. You set the house like you set the day off. There's nothing to do.
You better go out.
Yeah, I was like, you better find some gravity. I was like, too bad they don't work anymore. You gotta have one in the first box.
Okay, so everybody is still getting set up. Anybody who is set up, type Vagrant SSH control. We're going to have to do one more final piece of setup on the actual Vagrant environment because we don't have keys set up.
Run Vagrant initial to seal. Okay.
You should get a prompt that looks something pretty similar to that.
I'm just text on them.
They'll click everybody's prompts. It's important.
Yep, it's a tag. So do one of two things. Disconnect the back account. Change the IP address in here to like 11. Thank you. And the 11 is in the third op cache in that's what I think is happening. You might be so unlucky that you have an IP address that's exactly
And what we're going to do is actually for each one of the boxes, sudo in and change the password.
I said you're rare, right?
Yeah, well,
So change it to whatever kind of password you want. It doesn't really matter because it's not really a secure thing.
That's what you're doing to work.
Yeah, just keep going.
No, I mean, you're just leaving.
Yeah.
Just
At least now you know where it is.
it's called a V motion.
Type password twice. Make sure that you get password updated successfully.
Password twice.
Password twice. Got it.
Yes.
That's a password, right?
Yeah. Whatever you.
I know, I'm just joking.
No judgments. No judgments. Okay. Once you do that,
Now, baby.
And you found some right?
Oh, web.
yep. Web is going to be the next one we do.
We'll look at that in a second. Just try to look at your portion before your local copy of this. If that doesn't work, we'll go into your .vagrant B in your home directory and blow away the copy that you download. If that doesn't work,
password twice again. Also, make sure this is the same password that you put in for the first one.
So it's Ubuntu?
Yeah, Ubuntu is the user, the default user, so we're going to change the password for the Ubuntu user.
Oh, okay. I got
And then again, exit. Vagrant SSH.
So here's my question: is C hashing more vague in your attack? So echo.
Sudo password.
My guess is the reason you're having trouble with this is that that's easy to fix. So echo
Or do that, don't type things correctly.
When you capitalize on it. Yes, if you did a vague.
Same password across. You don't have to have the same password for every user on every account for like a live production system, but for simple, easy, local host stuff, we're gonna all put the same password just to make it a lot easier.
It's like you absolutely get clone. HTTPS.
I just done last
And when you have all the passwords changed, go back and Vagrant SSH control, and we'll wait for everybody right there.
Blue light filter in and stuff like that.
Ansible class.
She's like, you're getting this, you're getting this, you're getting this. Oh, glare.
And then
she did
pull that right now.
I said, and I didn't think, yeah.
Do we need to, I'm sorry, do we need to run through the password?
For each one of the boxes, which are control, web, and DB, go in and change the Ubuntu password. There's no sudo password for the Ubuntu user, so we'll leave that.
Wi-Fi network.
We need to have a consistent password just for ease of initial setup.
Yes.
And also make sure it's the same password for each one, just for ease of management for right now.
So you did,
So
Vagrant SSH web.
Yeah, I saw
yep,
that.
Vagrant SSH web, Vagrant SSH DB, Vagrant SSH control.
You don't know what that is?
Yeah, so if you just go ahead.
It was at HackerCon this past year. A guy, DerbyCon,
Did that give you the
this
same
past year, and the guy went across the street to Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
Drinking, eating shade, and I could spit out.
We have reached the extent of my knowledge.
And Trevor everywhere. Pictures of Trevor with DerbyCon and everything. Wow. And it made
That's a sticker point.
This is what
I was seeing people with those. I was like, what is that? Yeah.
So this guy, Smack me caught onto the news and everything.
Alright, who now does not have Vagrant up and running?
Smash Mouth.
We'll talk to you.
Kiki Push. Of course, that didn't know.
That didn't make it well.
I don't think anybody was
Yeah.
I mean, the year before, I went there. And the year before.
This is what I was
What happens if it's
It's a network.
I can't imagine that. If you had a corrupted file, I can't see that thing really at all.
I'm sure there's nothing
Just figured out it's not seriously, I bet it's.
I was like, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Or what is
It was
maybe
thing. It was like a link.
Pointing to this file. I don't know.
I've seen it earlier, but I didn't know what it was. Oh, right there it is.
Is that what you need, or are you trying to?
It's got an issue.
Yeah, it's recording now. It's new
Oh,
frame.
yeah, they did. I saw it when I did it.
So yeah, you
On
need
that
that
one,
Here's
my other machine.
Yeah, this one, it showed up for a second when I went away.
Okay, so for everybody who got boxes up, if you've already changed the password, we're going to generate a key file. We're going to use the elliptic curve 25519 as the type of key.
No type Vagrant status again.
Which box are you running out of?
Control. Vagrant SSH control.
You have to take that first.
Yes, get into the actual box itself. Vagrant SSH control.
And then,
What was the key?
This is Sage
I am not nearly familiar with
-T for the type, EV 25519 for the elliptic curve 25519 key. Accept the default key location, that's perfectly fine, and put in a password of some sort. Theoretically, you want this to be super secure. Make sure that it's not just password 1. For our purposes, I am actually going to make this password 1 just because I don't care.
Do we need to set one?
Actually, not really. Can't think of it.
Okay, this is good. Your Ansible class masters list the stuff that's right. CD into Ansible
sure.
your operating years later. Yeah, so you need to give the exact same directory. Yes. And then let's get now. When you see that
Windows update shutdown. Nah.
It's alright.
I did that twice.
Yeah. It just shut down, like even in the middle of the build something, it just shuts down.
I love it. I knew it would. I knew it would do it.
Thank you so much.
I'm having fun.
It can be easy. It's always gonna be difficult.
You're in the local directory.
I know. That's all I want to see. You're not even down
Bro, Surface tablets he had used
So CD in the box.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They can?
No, tablets is one. Tablets.
And yeah, this would have that.
See, I brought one last year. I didn't do it. I set it in there most of the time. I didn't. It's good to write notes on, but
I take it anywhere I go. I can roll back to my desktop in my house.
yeah, one of our partners seen it.
Hey,
So that's why I'm using this.
Yeah, I ended up getting $500 off the normal price of it. That's why I bought it.
Yeah.
So a $1,500 computer in my office, and I'm like, let's do this. So much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, but I had to put my one car into the shop while I was coming here, and I have to. The other one needs to go in the shop, but I have to get a new car. So guess what?
HP's got one that looks pretty similar to this service. I haven't messed with it. See, I don't know what it is exactly. I've seen him come in. But we work with another company, and they have them. And they seem a lot better. They seem pretty nice.
Before I had this, I had what's called the HP Spectre X360.
Yeah.
So before
12-hour computer. Correct. Yeah. I gave it to my brother when he moved to DC. His computer crashed before he moved. Like, here, just take this. I'll go get something else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's on a computer guy.
Yeah, I haven't messed with him too much. So I'm not sure. I've been busy, but I told them I wanted to see because they're wanting to get services for all partners and stuff. The one's got it now. The rest of them.
I'm switching from HP to Dell.
Yes, just that.
Don't ask me why.
We've been a Dell shop.
They switch every couple of years, so.
Yeah.
You are. My class.
That's what I was telling him. We bought the Latitude E5570. The battery, I think one is internal. The only way to be able to figure them out is to simply disconnect it. Because if it happens, you can't even plug it into the wall. Because it's in a complete circuit. So I told him, I was like, unless you want to replace every one of these laptops. Yeah. You just put a little on so you still probably and I'll probably go into levels of, and this is the ones that are having issues. I'm taking them.
Like virtualization.
Other than that, they did pretty good laptops.
Once you find a good one, it's like cars, right?
Vagrant is that.
That's what I bought a truck. I liked it. I got think I had one sold when I got rid of it. It had 350,000 on it. Went and bought the new model. It's been riding that one.
All right. So what Stack Exchange is saying is, there's a couple people that have had this error, and there's a fixed VirtualBox, but what they said is uninstall VirtualBox and Vagrant, reinstall both, and it seemed to work for them. That looks, and it looks like there's a couple people that have that solution.
Oh no,
it looks. Did you have VirtualBox installed in Windows 10 recently?
Control.
Did you have VirtualBox installed before you updated to Windows 10?
No.
Okay.
This was a clean install.
I was able to get you to change the password from first to third.
There's another one here that says VirtualBox is installed in network driver.
Awesome. Hey, that's possible.
No, RANT.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments, throwing things at you like Justin does.
So I'm trying to on my lab now, but now VirtualBox.
Okay, so has everybody logged in and changed the passwords for the Ubuntu user?
No. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going now.
Has everyone generated SSH key?
On just that one box.
Control box is all you need to generate the SSH key for, yes.
You got an R on VAR and VAG.
On the version.
Yeah, sorry for the hour of pain we've endured, but after this you now have a nice setup that you can go and play with this even more outside of the class.
And that command you just ran, that is inside that.
Inside of the control VM.
Okay.
So for the most part, actually for these, the SSH agent isn't started by default, so we have to specifically start it. And the way it runs, it actually exports a set of commands to set environment variables inside of the local terminal, which is why we're doing the eval specifically, because it's doing the echoing of that stuff back to the command prompt. So then we can actually do this.
Adam.
Sir.
This is all good. What it's done at this point, it's actually pulling in and building its first copy of that box. Okay.
No, I'm talking.
Yes, it should be Ubuntu.
I was pointing my finger.
I was thinking
sudo password where it says web, it should be.
We're going to have to do SSH.
Yeah, yes, you would do that, yeah. And then you do Ubuntu, yeah.
So this part that you're saying.
Oh, because you're already in it. You're already in it. So you have to hit exit.
That box.
Okay, and then just then go
And this is just indicating progress.
Well, you're
Once it does that, control is when it starts to since you were such control right now, it'll start provisioning against web. Once it's provisioning against web, you can go to the control box. You'll be able Okay. You don't have a vagrant file in here, so ls not the IR. I'm
You're actually
so you should be able to try to get in. Yeah, so you need to it's not effectively
you missed that. You missed the dash. after PGM.
Okay. Yeah, they file is a little tricky because it's a specific file by itself.
Oh no, this is one to be good on that.
Oh, this is easy. They file
Normally they're supposed to do education first. Oh, like the school.
And then on that,
You're not
and then
actually-
like,
I got passed down.
How do you sell? Where's it getting licensed? How's it loaded? How are you doing?
and then the next thing is.
So he's
Left parentheses, SSH -A. That's one thing. They're not space. There you go. Space dash S.
We're doing just the presented laptop over.
Oh, it's just a general class.
And then you got.
That way, we're not trying to follow what they're saying.
Yeah, that makes sense. As long as it's recorded good.
Yep, we're good.
Oh yeah, you'll have to do that next. Yeah. And then type in that password when you make it.
They have they bought all of that.
So this is probably what you.
Sure, no, that's all right. Just
exactly what we're doing.
I don't think they should.
that's what I'm wondering about.
I think they should.
What? Okay.
Oh yeah, we still for whatever reason. Did you log in or did you log back in? Okay. So we should see complication on that. And the fact that you got an error message help you know for the
After a year, they'll get surplus.
Let's think about it and then we'll come back.
Okay. All right, you got mine to work. Excellent.
Oh.
All right.
And we gotta get it on.
Okay, so
Like if it's in
Oh, yeah,
school.
absolutely. So what you normally do, if you were so inclined to start right now, you are selectively or
There's no good.
okay.
Depends on your level of comfort and what you want to do and how you want to be about it.
After it's installed,
Uber nerded out.
Vagrant
What would
SSH.
you do that?
Vagrant SSH to web.
For web.
Yep.
This looks right.
Yep. She just getting there. Slowly but surely trying to figure out. Yeah, it takes an outlet.
Because no matter how they get it,
Cool.
it's just line
I've already noticed this
actually.
Okay.
Cool. Problems and hopefully not sometimes
It's a very good idea. Yeah, so that's pretty.
Yeah, so that was my moment.
So far, this is it's going pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you walk out here and know nothing, I think that's a huge. It just makes it so much easier. So much of this is just automated.
Do we need to do something?
All right, next.
Get closer.
You need to run that set of commands on the control box.
Was that?
Oops, that got it. See what happens, Larry. See what happens.
Cat?
You need to, not that. You're not going to have this file. This is local stuff. One more time. Hang on. So that set of commands, sudo apt-get update, sudo apt-get install software properties common. Just run every single one of those in your control VM.
I will admit to being mildly concerned that Decker's bouncing this much of what should be a stable building.
On the ground floor.
Somebody on the first floor is jumping up and down.
Well, it could be more than jumping.
Could be a.
Is there a I bet there's an air conditioning unit train. Yep.
Why couldn't you give us the install Ansible script?
Because I forgot to push it up to GitHub.
It's never too late.
That's true.
Yeah. So I got that air again. Alright. Let's see.
Why is it taking
And then go on down to where it said we're going to try to and we're going to put it in
Look at the. Yeah.
Noted. Noted.
They quit now.
I'm trying to use I can't.
You have to do like half and
I
half.
have to, for that small, I have to have my glasses.
I don't know.
He's up with it.
Happy connected.
I'm just on my first thing.
Alright, come back.
I thought it said 20 minutes for sound.
Hey, could you reveal the last two?
Yes. So it's up on the GitHub repository now.
Well, it's too late, man.
It's never too late.
Quick question, catch-up question. Connect to control, SSH to control. Yep. It has to do what?
Have you got more passwords changed?
No, so that should
I was a second.
Type in your password you want. Matters. You're ready to get strong.
do that SSH install.
Just cascade. You just need the sudo apt-get update, sudo apt-get install. Those we have technically no, not yet.
Not yet.
The commands. We only need one to just get the password where I get stuck with, and after that we're going to just use
Pretty much.
I feel like we didn't get this far before, did you? I feel like we showed confused.
So the very first time I got all the way to the third one, and then after that it kept.
We're going to drop those unpaid directives in the rest of them. Because if this bears out the way it will, you'll get the first one, but not the second. And so those automated directives. But why do you want to go full debate or not? I'll show you where to get the application. You can do all kinds of debate. It's really pretty flexible. It is like it.
It should be
So vagrant.com is the address.
We get off 2 days.
And I'll show you a couple things. There's one I'm just go to docs up.
Then you Friday,
Networking.
I think you take something for us.
They use it for stuff.
Do you know Vagrants?
It's actually just getting basic.
You build up to a good.
And then the other one is if you go back up, there's a box there. Go to boxes and publicly you can download any of those and they get updated on the week. You can also put your own software. So it's got Windows, Windows 7, desktops, non-desktops. Yes. Okay. So Vagrant SSH.
What's the reward?
Vagrant SSH space control. Vagrant is command SSH is which one view controls the box.
There.
Oh, I didn't know what I didn't have.
APT add isn't fine.
We know that.
Because you gotta do the update.
In theory, I mean, you clearly have this. You should learn how to use command lines to the base range.
We can't add the repository.
But I mean, you clearly got in.
The active repository that we're having. That's not worth it.
All right, so it's app-add.
All instead of spaces.
So you can.
Add.
You just get hyphens between add and
Just take out the space between add and repository and dash.
All right, so somebody talk to me like I'm a small child that doesn't use Ubuntu very often.
What is third command should be
add,
add,
like that?
Yes.
All right.
No.
That was two.
That's the autocomplete, so.
Okay. You can also do app-add.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's for me.
the autocomplete worked because you typed in add first for some bizarre reason.
All right.
You just got lucky.
I'm just saying what Ubuntu told me.
It must be aliens.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
We literally just had this on his machine. And did you find a solution to this yet?
Yes.
Okay. Did you just go in and add it?
Go to the VirtualBox network drivers. There's two directories inside of it.
No.
Install both drivers and skip the rest of it.
Alright, so you got the instructions right here. If you just steal the URL, you got to do that. Yes.
I just picked up.
Alright, go to the VirtualBox.
No, I don't think it is. I think we've given this a satisfactory amount of time to resolve this issue, and it doesn't seem to want to. So we should walk through with it, but I don't think that's
I've been up there.
Okay, we're just scroll it, that note's down at the very bottom.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
His machine gets stuck. And it's doing this. Let me go see if I can find this. It's clearly solved. I don't solve right now. But his machine just does this exact same thing.
Yeah, well, no, I got this one. Daydream is very knows
Okay, and that's what we're done.
Yeah.
What's the PA command?
So
Repository
this is line
PA.
Is it PA or PPA?
PPA.
Just PPA.
One second.
After lunch.
I think I have to do that up there. Are you talking about that one right there? The app repository one?
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on.
I didn't even run it. The reason I didn't do that is because it says final order I'll change to my directory with the favorite file map because it had favorite file here.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Wrong one. And then so it looks like what people online are complaining about is a version of those PowerShell management framework. So you might try updating that. So you can do that work. So I think we could at least identify consistency. I've had this thing since 2012.
Okay.
32 gigs of RAM, an i7 processor, 2 terabytes of solid state storage, and it's going wrong.
I still have one in my house.
I'll be some mod demos. Okay. Where's everybody at? Everyone have Ansible installed?
Yes, we're good. Good.
Flag. I love it. Someone's on flags. I like it. Ah.
That's good, right?
Wait, wait,
No,
white flag.
no, this way is good.
This way's good?
Yes. The other way is waving white flag and everything's going
Oh,
wrong.
Yeah, you give up.
Good, good.
All right.
Thumbs up.
We're almost there. Almost there.
Might just be less work for you to separate.
All right. So,
That's all I'm going to do. Are we supposed to do this?
yes. Next, make their Ansible and see the entering Ansible directory. Good. Good start. All right.
They're recording this, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And they're gonna post it.
Iron Duke. It might be out there. Yesterday might already be out there.
Yesterday might already be out there.
Yeah. Yeah, Iron Duke.
Okay. Next thing we're going to do, SSH copy ID 192.168.10.11. What we're going to do is move the public key from the vagrant control machine to the other machine so that we can SSH in without passwords and make our lives a lot easier. It'll prompt you first for the Ubuntu password that you just set a couple of minutes ago. Do that first for the .11 address, and then do it for the .12 address.
Does it need kind of dot up?
Yeah, it's still SSH.
Did you do SSH keygen? SSH dash space dash T space ED 2551.
No, that's it.
That's one reason put passwords in.
Finding my mistakes.
Now.
Alright, try the copy ID again. Yes.
What about 12? You do the same thing for 12?
Yep. So, 11 and 12.
So what if we're getting on hostname error?
What kind of hostname error?
It's saying could not resolve hostname the address.
Do IF config?
Yeah, and mine's
Should have
10.10.
Oh, yes.
My password on the other
Yes, yours
one.
is .10. You should
Yeah,
be
I've tried that as well. And
you're not, .10 is yours, so you don't need to copy any of those.
okay, so it's fine then.
Yes. 11 is probably the only one that I worry about.
Hey, I screwed up and I don't know what the password is on the 12. I just got to the web. I made it same.
They're better new solutions.
I have on a web.
So like this,
Just control C out of them.
So you just put them on
like right here.
Wait, that's the same. Web.
Oh, were you on the hacker
It's right here.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
So when you finally get everything right,
Yes.
you'll have a
I can virtual do it.
CD password or just
command line.
Okay, so then
send it back
Right
to
after
the
that,
edition.
So, how much do I love?
Cool.
I'm gonna have to.
About as much as all of us.
download
I mean, I was going to use this, but
Yeah,
I
it's
realized that that's
the
not
commands aren't there now, but it'll be on there.
So I finally just got it.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay. Has everyone got keys copied? Cool.
No, it's not working.
Still?
Was it one?
I was trying to use this to get better, which is not working exactly.
Okay.
I mean, it's working. Okay. I'll stick with that. If that doesn't work, then I'll try and switch it here. I originally tried to make sure.
I need help. Cool. Oh, what's the
So which one was that? Web? Okay, that's probably what it is. You're changing the password to web. Here, you can just do SSH and the IP. I don't think we've done this.
Just DB?
Yes. And every time you go out there, like
You might not have set that one up and you put change password.
just like they make things like their Git repos, they have a virtual box that's designed to just pull down.
What? I'll be back. Okay.
So that's all it is pulling down a tar file with some JSON. Tells you what version of the box you're supposed to everything. So it's really just a tar file dropping into the box.
So we can't try to video, we gotta let the see.
Otherwise, you have to get it rushing in. So this
That's it.
and without telling us, all right, let's go to the time.
3 hours.
You type favorite off of my favorite file, and now you know you're working on the same 3 hours. I've never met you yet.
I was 15 minutes studying 7 minutes.
Yes.
That's very specific.
Yes. Yes.
It's like it's good. Usually it only does hours.
Yeah, there's tons of it. It's not. It's better if you went up and cut the Yeah. We're gonna go through this. We just thought we get stuck in that path. We will manually go online. It's like set updates.
Okay. So everybody else is waiting. Docs.ansible.com. We'll go with it. That is the official Ansible documentation site. This is actually their app-specific documentation. We're going to use that in just a minute. So look through the Ansible documentation. It's fantastic. There are a bunch of actual parameters with all the configuration options listed here. And then at the bottom, they have a bunch of really useful examples. That is horrifically tiny. That's horrifically low. There is no middle ground. Do it on your laptop, yeah. The individual documentation for pretty much every Ansible package is like this. You will have a bunch of really good examples. Also, specifically, the requirements section is really nice. If you're doing some of the kind of more fringe packages, that'll tell you that you have to have this or that or whatever installed on the host machine before you're allowed to use it. Obviously, for apt, you need the aptitude package manager. That's important. If you're doing it not on Ubuntu, you can use like Yum. There's also a Yum equivalent for this. And the other important thing is the very, very bottom. Stats. So Ansible is constantly being updated and developed, but the status will tell you exactly how stable each individual package is. And it even gives you a nice description there. Stable interface is most of the packages that do standard sysadmin type stuff. There's some that are in development, and some are just straight up unstable. It means they're basically just kind of trying to poke at it and figure it out as it goes. What we're going to be doing mostly is stable interface stuff, but if you end up running into problems, we will go back and check the status for the individual pieces, especially for your individual, not just class stuff. If you have files that used to work and no longer work, check to make sure that you're using a stable interface package. Okay, so just for fun kicks and jollies, we need to create a hosts file. That's the other last thing we need to do. Web server 8.0.10.
Are we supposed to be doing this?
Yes.
What was the name of the file?
I'm calling it host, or hosts, one or the other.
Hey, just to be clear, it's not your Etsy host file. This is
a host file in your little Ansible directory that you should have created.
Oh, I'm not in that directory.
Cool. See what happens. Don't live demos walking around, don't actually install Ansible on my computer. Good job.
It's way more helpful than Red Hat. Red Hat's just like top one.
Sorry, bro.
You know that
I didn't get all that.
Hang on. I actually have to install Ansible on my machine so we can actually pick back up. Go. Yes. Go. There's Ansible. Okay. One more step. Default.
Do we have to do this?
Yes. So create a file called Ansible.cfg. See the problem with live demos? Too many things going on.
What's it called?
Ansible.cfg. So there's actually a bunch of these levels that Ansible will try to find configuration files for. The main one lives in your Etsy directory, if I remember correctly. Making one for your local environment is really nice because that way you can constrain a bunch of individual unique project stuff in its own little space. You're not having to worry about any kind of global changes being a problem, and you can also then version control the whole project together. You can also set this as an environment variable. You can do a bunch of other stuff. You can even set it on the command line, but we're going to save ourselves a bunch of time and put it in a config file so we don't have to keep typing stuff.
And then we're down to the host thing.
Hang on, I'm cheating again.
Yeah, I have the same problem. No, the Python 3 is there, but there's no symlink to using the Python.
Did I miss something else?
Not for a second, hang on.
Oh, and actually,
Defaults, sorry.
And I'll change it to defaults.
Yep, defaults.
Oh, well, I'm getting no subscriber directories when we're hiring and running into and then that's the way but when I try to go to
It's really hard to read. Is it me? The red is really hard.
The red shouldn't happen.
Okay, so the good news is everybody's consistently getting this. So we have one problem solved rather than like 20.
Python not found.
Dave's looking for the package and he says he's not seeing the symlink to it. I'm wondering if we
Python
go.
3 is all the there.
I'm wondering if we go and install Ansible on each of these machines, they'll just solve our problem for us, or whether we actually want to go and figure out the Python issue.
So we have Python's default installed, isn't it?
Python 3 is.
Python version says 2.7.
Really? So
let's give her
We're not doing internships right now. Sorry. But if you want to, at some point when you are looking for a job, you can just go to our site.
Python's apparently not installed. Okay, well that's a thing. Okay, so
However, it is installed.
SSH 192.168.10.11.
Why is it?
yeah.
Fact. I thought Python was installed on every machine, and now I'm wrong. Okay. So once we have that, do the same thing on .12.
What do we just do?
Just install Python.
Yep.
User bin Python is on a directory. The user bin Python file.
Remember how I said it's really important to look at the requirements and see what each package requires? Found it.
So install Python on what?
On 11 and 12.
Just say Python?
Yeah, just Python.
Just
Oh,
Python.
that's what it is.
Apparently Python got installed on the main box with Ansible, but not on the other boxes.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, I always do too. APT. It's more visual. You can see more.
And you have to do 2.7, right?
Hey! Alright.
2.7?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Just sudo apt install Python.
Oh, really? I thought.
Just so you guys know, when this thing does a ping command, it's doing ping plus checking for a minimum version of Python, which is why we're getting this error. So ping is it's actually logging the machine, it's not just actually looking at connectivity.
So Ansible has two different things you can do with it. You can run it straight from the command line like this, Ansible, and then tell it which hosts. So let's actually play it for a little bit.
I'm getting errors. Oh wait, I'm still on this.
I believe it's in one.
Where's we go?
But it should be.
And do an IDA. So that's got the exact same identity.
No, yeah, we got it.
You'll be able to follow.
So it looks like it's not configuring.
If you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you plug into the rest of this, you just go in and like say, right,
You're not on our
yeah, it's just 192 dots.
Hey.
So you got 10 most major files. I'm very curious. I don't think that can be put in there.
Oh, I just popped out of it.
Yep.
Okay, now what was I supposed to do?
Did you create your file?
I'm really curious about.
Yeah. Ansible.
I wonder if you did set it if you would bounce the machine.
No.
Much higher doing machine first.
Creating a
Sudo service network resource. It's a 16
Probably not.
No, because we didn't get to see it. We didn't get to see the host file.
You just do a sudo reboot, but I'm not trying to. For whatever reason, once you get
I did mine outside.
this thing holding or
I have not seen tools.
just close the box and these things are supposed to be.
Okay. Yes.
No. Oh, okay.
Take it and refile it. Yeah, we're trying to SSH back in the web server.
There's all kinds.
Okay, so it's like SSH is some web server, it might be fun.
It's
Okay.
we're just really like trying to get into.
Oh, because you're going to 6 times. I believe it's 192.168.
Is it just 11 and 12 in there?
Yes. It's easy to overlook stuff here. And you should be there.
Oh, yeah.
So just
What I believe is.
just out of curiosity, erase that, just try to type and then to N-T-U-I. I'm sorry, N.
Maybe destroy control.
Now we're going to try. Error.
No, it's just there. Okay, yeah, you can do these.
Oh, because they've got to have a name on them. See, I had mine. I think it's got to have. Like,
we look back here. Okay, so you wanna go back to that? Okay. So you then
Like this.
in this one we're going to do is you're going to type left square bracket web right square bracket.
Okay. So here's how your host file needs to be.
DB. Oh.
Yeah, so right there. Yeah, right there is this host file. If you see it.
WEB web and then right square bracket. All right, and then enter. And then
I think I got mine back.
192.168.10.11,
Yeah, I got mine back.
10.11, right? Is the, oh, that's way easier. Right web server, apparently. I was giving you the proper instructions, this might even work.
Okay.
What's the same?
And then, so here's what you're going to do. Now hit escape, get out of insert mode, and then hit shift.
I've got.
Alright. And then you're going to type Ansible space dash I.
Nah, I'm on all like this. You don't have that inventory thing. I can get rid of that.
Space dash N payments. And if you were going from the Sonic Python, hit the up arrow.
Error.
Okay. Next thing we want to do is type Ansible. We're just going to do this for one of the files. Ansible db -m setup. It's really hard to read on my screen, but on your screen it should be a lot easier.
So it looks like
Every single time Ansible runs a play, it will go through and do an initial phase called setup, and it runs this setup module that we just ran here, and it creates this gigantic set of information. It knows all about the hard drives, all about the networking interfaces, all about the users, all about basically literally everything on the system. The really nice thing about this is it's all in like top-level variable called Ansible facts. So when you're actually writing individual like logic into your playbooks, you can take advantage of these Ansible facts. Again, we're using all an Ubuntu system, but if you have a very mixed environment, some in Red Hat, some Ubuntu, some Windows, and everything in between, you can check the specific host name. I'm sorry, not the host name. The
You have to point the post on.
yeah, you have to point to the post line.
Think of the name. Variable.
Put it in the config.
Okay, so and you did the Ansible config for everybody already?
Yes.
Okay, I'll show you how to do that too.
Mine's not working. Mine got
So
something.
go into the directory you're in right now.
Did you? What about? Let's check your other files.
There we go.
Just those times.
Ansible config. How about that one?
You do a lot of these nice things to actually go through and look. Ansible system, that's what it's called. You can actually check to see what type of system you're on. You can check for the presence of things, the absence of things. What you got?
He's getting the fail, but we checked. I just checked this config; it's the same as mine, and then he's on VI host.
Slash home slash because it looked like when you're slash
Oh, Ing. I still form.
slash
He had pink.
Control C. SSH dash.
Perfect. So again. Okay. Did you go the same question or did
I had the same question, but then.
okay, so dash I hosts do it. I'll show you guys how to get around that. In your Ansible config file, just like a dash RC or Ansible config. So you cp /Ansible Ansible config into your current directory. In there, there's a command. There's a directory.
Parenthesis.
Ansible config now.
SSH dash int.
What do you do something?
Space. Dash S.
And here's just an example.
Right parenthesis.
It's gonna change the state.
Oh, that's interesting. Sudo apt install.
Oh, because you don't have postpack. No, my apologies. You do.
Open SSH dash logs.
You're doing so. Dash -E is the dash name for the remote check. So only inside the
server.
Or
There's version.
that's using
What am I doing? Eval?
Oh,
SS.
There we go. Hey, cool.
Yeah.
SSH dash app. And type in the password. Okay. And then do Ansible dash or Ansible all. Try to oh, we're in the wrong directory. Go to your Ansible directory. And one more time. Ansible
in theory.
dash n. Come on, buddy. There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
4 hours later.
Brackets.
You want to show me your UNL directions?
Hey, all right. Good, this is good.
Oh. No, we're good.
What are
Okay. I'll do one more thing here before lunch. Okay. Everyone needs to make a tasks directory.
Inside of Ansible?
Yes.
Inside task, and now what's the name of this?
Common.yml.
Yeah, so I should.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just
I'm going to write the name of update systems.
I have to think right
Hey, Adam, after you
Is
made
that Jack's name or?
You made a task directory?
Yes, tasks directory.
Common.
Have you ever used Well, I mean, like what's that? No, we want to shut this one down first, so you can see it out. I am curious, it looks like you only have
Cache, there we go.
Do they know?
Find out.
Yeah, that one don't matter.
Or are they trying to
And then APT.
Okay. Spaces for all of this, that's important. So the first one is right up against the left side here, dash space name. And we're going to call this update systems. We're then going to come in a couple of spaces directly under name. And we're going to call the apt package. And we're going to do two things, which is update cache and upgrade. So if you're familiar with apt, it is the apt update and apt upgrade. All in one nice happy package.
Yep.
And then class.yaml.
True. Stay true.
All.
Yep.
Come true. Tasks.
What did you call that file?
This I'm calling class.yaml. It's going to be our main demo playbook.
What is this called?
Class.yml.
Was that in the task directory?
It's in the main directory.
Oh, it's in the main.
What was
Yep.
in there again?
Class. You can call it whatever you want. I'm calling it class.yaml.
But you can open it up again.
What?
Open it up.
Yes.
So what does this file do?
We're going to use it. It's our main overall playbook. We're going to use it to then do all the rest of our work. But this way, we don't have to have one giant monolithic file with everything in it to try to, multiply, try to manage hundreds of lines, multiply a bunch of times. We can do this in much smaller chunks with, well-named, nice meaning things.
Right, so like functions and modules.
Pretty much, yes. So, common is stuff we're going to install across all the hosts. Okay. So, Ansible.
We didn't finish that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Almost there.
If we run this, we will break for lunch and come back and do actual Ansible stuff. Woo!
Is that two spaces on the include?
One space in from tasks,
Yeah.
and then no problem. Dash space.
One quick question. If we weren't able to follow along step by step in real time, is there a cheat sheet so we can go back?
I haven't pushed everything up to GitHub yet, but I will have it. It's going to be in this Ansible class thing that everyone's already cloned.
I've got notes about everything you've done so far. Because I can't do anything.
You two on it.
I've been writing everything down. I can't even get it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks. No problem. Common.yaml on the left, class on the right. Hopefully everything works correctly. We'll see what happens. Alright, everyone got files?
Yeah, you spell I just do MB, just move it.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah. Alright, so last thing we need to do is Ansible-playbook class.yml. That'll be the last thing we do before lunch. So the first thing, like I said, it's going to do is gather the facts, which is running that setup module, and then it's actually going to execute the task that we just created under the tasks common, which is going to upgrade and update and upgrade our app on both the web and database servers. It's going to not look very nice here in a second because it's just going to sit here and pause. So eventually it will show us whether it completed successfully.
Did you get an error or did I miss something?
What's the last line of class?
Should be
Update dash after cache.
We get an error rate under class. Maybe it's host.
And Ansible.
Nope.
Guess what? I lost mine.
Class.yaml.
Yeah.
No.
Ask me your password.
I don't need to add the keys. Hey!
Got it. Lunchtime break?
Yeah, lunchtime.
Okay, come out here. Lunch is ready. You can come back in here.
Ansible to work, and so I work back. It's a problem with SFTP. So if you ever get in there and it starts choking on you and telling you SFTP doesn't work, what Ansible is really doing in the background is building all of its scripts and then copying them over to the box, and it's using SFTP to do it. So to solve that problem, I caused myself a whole bunch of other problems because I had to share a home directory. So
Hey,
just know that echoes and printfs can cause you nightmares.
So Adam, yeah, true does that does not work. If I put in yes, I get the aptitude error. Cannot find aptitude. But if I have the
I could not believe that
lowercase true in there,
That's interesting.
Do Ansible dash version. Do Ansible dash version.
I ended up putting a test statement right before it. So if you run a bash command, and
See if yours matches mine.
if you run a bash command and you run
2.002.
the bash command you want to
That would be
evaluate
why.
first,
so why did
and then do an ampersand,
why I did a
ampersand,
yum install Ansible?
and then the
Why
bash
would
command you
install
actually
it
want to
over?
run, then you can do it like in a one-liner.
Yeah.
And so I just test for whether it's an interactive session
The
before I run that
download
command.
button said 2.0.
So if it's just logging in as SFTP, it doesn't run it the way it does. So
In Ansible?
When we went to the Ansible website, that's what it said. Download 2.0.
That would have been Vagrant.
Or, okay.
I'm gonna try
Maybe
to.
it was Vagrant.
It says Ansible is already the newest version. When I just tried to install
I
it
think
again.
it's Ansible-V to see what version you actually have.
We did.
Yeah.
You guys have a newer version. He has a newer version than I did.
Okay, here's a dumb question. At any point in time did you actually run an apt-get upgrade or update? I've had weird problems with Ubuntu, and I don't spend that much time on Ubuntu, but one of the weird problems I had is I was trying to install the cockpit package, and it didn't exist, and then I went back through, I ran an apt-get upgrade, and then I was able to find it. So maybe, or update, I think it's apt-get update.
Yeah, it's
It should have been
update. It's
part of
update.
the
This updates your Your repos.
Yeah, so, and the apt is a package manager I don't use very often, so.
It's just weird. Some people. I mean, we all got that same image from Vagrant. Some people are at the newer version.
Yeah, I think some of us might have done the apt get upgrade or update rather. That's the only thing I think.
It should have been in here because literally.
Yeah, I ran. You told me to run
the repository, and then we didn't immediately do an update.
Oh, you know what though? This is what happened. If we ran it before you had fixed the repository line.
You didn't have the repository correct, yeah.
And then I did the update, and then I went back into the repository line, but didn't run the update after that.
Gotta do it.
So that's what it is.
That is interesting.
Yum
doesn't do this. Yum just looks at the repository and goes out and gets it. Why? And then DNF?
Well, yeah, Yum will have it because he right out.
Yeah.
Can you cat your comment?
Sure.
No, I'm saying like Yum doesn't do this weird thing where I have like an old version. Like every time it updates, the first thing it does is update its package repository
it's nice,
cache.
Yeah. Pac-Man does the same thing.
Yeah, so it's upgrading Ansible now.
Good. Almost there.
So what you have to type to do that?
You sudo apt get update.
That's not what my time. I did that earlier.
Yeah, but if you did it before you did the repository, remember when the apt get?
Yeah.
If you did those out of order because it was wrong up on the board, then you have to do it after you got that repository. I would run it again.
All right, it's after 1 o'clock. We'll get started again.
Yeah, nobody looks like that.
So yeah, this will be new stuff we're going to do. So there's a couple different ways we can actually install and configure the actual even YAML files themselves. The way I prefer is at the top there, that name install common utilities. You can literally give the name value for the apt a bunch of different packages in a list, and that way it just installs them one after another. Especially for something that, like what we're doing is a common utility, just some nice handy useful things to have. Double check that. Okay. All right. So you can also put it all on one line, but when you put it on one line, it actually changes the syntax a little bit. It changes it to the standard key equals value rather than the more JSON-y value colon or key colon value. So we're going to do a couple of things to start with here, and that's going to be installing a couple of utilities just to show that we can do a bunch of them like that. And then we're also going to remove a couple of things just to also show that they don't exist. Them apparently is already installed, so we'll actually see pictures and stuff here. So we'll do Ansible-playbook last name.
Anyone needs to be installed common utilities.
What is it now? You get an error?
Yeah, let's see.
Alright.
Are you stuck?
Yeah, if you don't care.
Hang on 1 second. Let me double check that I got everything right here.
Okay.
Can't find attitude. Hold on. That was actually a setting. It's a good question. Let's go to the documentation. Oh yeah, there we go.
This class thing?
Yeah.
Force apt get.
What are we doing?
I was checking because we keep getting this warning that apt can't find apt. It's trying to get apt get. So in the new 2.4 version, we can specifically tell it stop trying to use apt, even though the package name that we're using is apt. Just use apt get instead. So let's fix that. Okay.
Yeah, I think my error is the same as yours.
Did you say you're still stuck, or?
Yeah. We're stuck at the install common utility line.
Where are you going to put the force application?
Oops.
Yeah, so it says the defending line.
It's going to be in underneath, or actually right underneath state. So apt : and then the state line. Underneath the state line will be force _ apt _ get.
So you see right here on each one?
Yes. For now, there's probably an easy way to do that, but
Here's part of the problem you had, right?
Okay.
You have essentially done a with.
Actually, interestingly, it doesn't tell you what the actual options are. So we're going to try true and see what happens.
And do you have that? Do you have that file that you just set up on GitHub?
The common YAML, not yet.
Did you have to do a with? You didn't have to do a with items on the install common utilities. Really? How they are? See that formula?
You can cheat if you're lucky with it sometimes. That's the other way we can actually do that.
Told you can do it.
Yeah. I don't know why it's taking forever to install.
Well, I'm not convinced you do know what you're talking about, but
You constantly telling me that I don't.
here's one of your problems.
That's not what that is for.
Okay. See how your one indentation in CUV2 indentation line your S here and your N under the T of apt. So line S under the T of apt.
Use of include for tasks has been deprecated.
Yep.
Okay, and then bounce yep, and then bounce your dash.
Good job.
And see if you can get that to go.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's getting stuck right here at the beginning. It's not even getting there yet.
Alright, go back to it.
Yeah.
Line up right above that. Okay, before you get to that one, do the same thing on that first half. You have the same alignment.
This right here?
Yeah, that's
Space
the app goes under the end. So that goes under the end, and then that other one goes under the T, which I believe you have now.
Okay.
Alright, give that a shot.
Could not find apt-get, use apt-get, so I don't think that worked.
There we go.
Scroll back up to what you just changed.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
I played some stuff real quick. So there's actually even one more way that you can do this, which is another pretty common syntax. You can feed the lists of items by themselves, or you can also do what's called the with items. If you need part of the item within other stuff that you're doing, other parts of the command. So if you're specifically doing, making a bunch of directories or something like that, you can do a shell to make dir and then, /home/ and then item, like the set right here.
Are those two curly brackets?
Yes.
Where?
It's terribly dirty.
Yeah.
Let me cat that.
We're using nano instead of BI.
I don't think that matters.
Okay.
It won't.
So your line.
So yeah, this item here. So you can just take and use the with items notation to then give it a list, and you can use it in parts.
Let me see the error you're getting. I'm surprised that it wouldn't. Like you still have one.
So did you change it to with items just to show it?
Yes, on that last one.
Let's see
But
what
you
you're
didn't have
getting. Come back. You have 3 dashes operators.
You have to put it.
Where you have it at? Column 9, line 1.
So you have to put it. So I worked for me on the ones that I had.
I think you may be having an issue
with colon space
with this section, it looks like.
And it worked on.
Should that be in?
Under maybe.
And
you have to have it on each.
Okay. Do it. Put a
Including the
space
first one,
between
the one that stayed there,
Put
right?
a space there.
Because I got an error.
Yeah, right.
Like I succeeded on the ones I had it on, failed on the ones I didn't. So I'm assuming.
Okay. So what about the one right quick?
Oh, ignoring valid attributes. Where's that to get? But it's updated.
What?
So I aired out before on the first update because I couldn't find aptitude.
Yeah.
So I added force apk, and I got a warning. Ignoring invalid attribute force apk.
Did you do that as true?
Yeah.
Huh.
But wait, then I did not get the error.
That's a thing.
It just didn't. So I don't know what happened. No.
Yeah.
This going to your, this went into your comment, not your class.
Okay.
Yes. That
So
is
let's
the
correct your
yeah.
formatting for all of those things. So under every tab, make sure they're bounced in over the T.
And
Alright, and then you have maybe that looks good.
Yes.
That's
So
how
yeah, go all the
You
way down
literally
to,
just have to keep
go on
running
your
Ansible
last
Playbook,
tab.
common, oops, class.
Push your state. No.
Push the states
Push
on
state in. Push main in. and
Because we
that
have,
looks like
yeah,
Let
because
that
we've
go.
included the common YAML
Go
inside
down
of
one
class,
more. Is that everything?
it's always going to just keep doing
Alright,
that.
Right click and see if you can get that to go.
It keeps hanging on installing pip, and I don't quite understand why it's doing that. It's taking a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, it did for me too. It eventually did say change.
Next error
Okay.
for sure.
It's online.
So this is actually good, because we'll let it complete.
So that was the only one that worked, that did anything. Was pip,
make sure.
but I didn't have any
based on
errors.
those
It's just
matches.
nothing else got changed.
That's a possibility too. It may already have Vim and DOS to Unix on there.
Because we got
And
it working.
did not have, Photoshop or
Going
everything.
to.
So we're looking for
Huh,
syntax
okay.
error. We're looking for colons
So,
that are
yeah,
lined up behind each other. We're looking for
Actually, yeah. So when I originally wrote this, I was using my
showing
Linux
right
Mint
here.
installed,
Yeah,
and it has a bunch of additional packages that are some like binary stuff. So
previous line.
I was using it as an example of some random stuff to uninstall we were just not going to use.
You have no dashes in
Delete that
or
line in between and just delete it.
What?
Is there anything in this line, that blank one?
I pushed the common YAML, the current version of common payload.
Yes.
I pushed the version of common YAML up to GitHub, so if you want to just pull it down.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, let's take a look. I'm really curious. So
There we go.
Good. Let's actually take a look at GitHub because it may just be a simple. Typo or something.
So there are a couple of different things that Ansible will return back. It'll either return OK or changed if things actually succeed properly. It will also return back failed in giant red letters if things go horribly wrong, as we've seen quite a bit often today. But then at the very end, it also has play recap, and it'll tell you exactly how many things are successful and how many things are changed. If you're doing this even more automated, you can even look and see, just grep for the changed versions, and you'll just not see as much of the stuff scrolling across the screen. It's also fun to just watch. I'm wearing I'm not slacking off my code's compiling shirt, but you could easily say, I'm not slacking off, my playbook is running. Go off and have yourself a sword fight. Okay.
There we go.
So it's very simple doing. So
in Vim,
if you have pretty simple individual tasks that you need to run across a bunch of servers, this is a great way of doing it. However, if you're doing anything more common than just a very simple, install one or two things kind of idea, Ansible has another concept called roles. And instead of using individual tasks, you can assign roles to groups of servers. And the entire roles changes the default configuration of what Ansible is looking for.
Mine works now. It's definitely.
It was something.
You want to see if we can figure out what it was?
No.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
You got it? Let's take a look. Okay. Spacing will kill you in this, and then you'll.
Spacing is really important.
It's like, that's killer.
So get
That's killer.
And it's, yeah.
For loop.
Come on!
Yep.
This is not,
So this is definitely get rid of that. Oh, actually,
you need to add some intelligence.
Yeah, I copy and pasted it.
Okay. So what we need to do now, make your -p roles/tasks.
Delete that last one.
I'm still waiting on Pip now.
Yeah, I know.
And then right click. Escape. And then on C.
Where do you want roles under Ansible line?
In your main Ansible directory that we've been working under, create the roles/tasks directory, because we want both roles and tasks.
It doesn't look like you're getting.
Oops, actually, I'm sorry.
Tasks.
That's sorry. Hang on.
Okay.
What?
We need one more subdirectory.
Yeah, it's not used tab to format tab to replace spaces.
Roll.
Okay, so you have.
Okay.
Your problem is you have tabs and you need spaces. So what you can.
Okay, perfect. So the
everywhere that there's a space.
So you need a common, and then you need a
roles, common, tasks.
Yeah, that's it.
That command right there will do it. Make their -p roles, common, tasks. So when you run a playbook, the current directory is like automatically understood to be where you're working out of. And Ansible understands that if you start asking for roles, it will check the roles directory. So we're going to do a couple things here really quick. First, we're going to update our class.yaml. And that's going to be common.
We need to work on. So where was this location at?
This is the class.yaml.
So you delete tasks?
Yes. We're not going to tell it specifically what tasks to use for. We're going to tell it what roles to become. So for, again, right now what we're doing, we're using all hosts, and we want all hosts to have the common role. And in the common role, we are going to do our standard sets of security, our standard sets of like hardening, firewall type rules. We're going to install the software that we care about across all of them. Again, other than Python, which has to be installed previously. Some other stuff like that.
There appears to be a tab character at the start of the one. Let's do this. Let's make sure we, then we'll tell us where it is. Let's forget how to do. You remember how to show tabs and spaces in them?
Not off the top of my head.
Let us refer first to the Oracle.
How to do what?
All this is on the
Show spaces and tabs and then.
I missed that. Wait. What do we? I missed method.
Hey, right before you changed class, you made the directory.
Cool.
What was the last
go back into
directory?
It was roles/common/tasks.
Good. Space. Good. List. Set. List. Good. No, not twice. Just once. No.
Become set space list.
Yep. No, that's actually
not that.
There are a bunch of different ways that you can assume permissions. You can actually have a straight up like SU into a root user from that user. But the sudo is just a nice, easy way. It is a default value. It defaults to sudo, which is why I didn't have this before, if you saw the difference. But I like to also put it in there as a reminder that that is exactly, explicitly what we are trying to do. And also, if they ever decide to change that for some reason, it's not going to change on me. Yes.
That would be awful.
Yes. Like right now, again, like we're on a theoretically stable, set of information that we're doing this with, but if I walk away from this for 6 months and do an update, is it still going to be stable in 6 months? Probably, but not guaranteed. So, there's a lot of stuff with Ansible that is convention over configuration, which is actually what we're about to talk a lot more about with the roles. But sometimes I like to be a little more explicit than their just standard convention. And a lot of that's personal preference too, because again, we were using this without the become method and it still worked. So entirely up to you. I prefer to be a little more safe than sorry on that stuff. Okay, so we've got that updated. We're going to then go into our roles. Actually, what we're going to do first, we're going to copy our current tasks and common into roles, common, tasks.
And all you're doing is just comparison.
Because right now we've already got a good set of information that we want to start with as how we're going to configure our server. We don't want to have to keep reinventing the wheel of installing Vim, installing Dusty Unix, and making sure everything is set up like that. So this way we just keep building on what we've already built. Which is also the nice thing about Ansible, because you can build things in nice discrete chunks and then basically plug all of it together at the end.
YAML file is not properly formatted like that. That's escaping right quick.
Alright. So,
And then get that.
so there's one more file we need to make, and that is main.yaml.
Quotes around there, so I think you're absolutely right.
So like I just said, the roles follow a convention-based approach. So if you tell it to become a role, what it's going to do is execute the tasks in the subfolder of the name that you tell it to become. So we're telling it to use role common. So it'll look in the common directory, and then under tasks it wants a main.yaml file. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the 3 dashes up top. And then we're going to include the common.yaml.
And then my tasks.
So the main, you can do a bunch of other stuff with it. You can do stuff, before and after if you're doing any kind of like setup, if you're doing extra like variable declarations, other stuff like that. And then you can then import each one of the individual task chunks that you want to run. So we're going to go start with that and just include the common YAML.
Before you get to formatting.
Does everyone have that?
No, hang on.
Do you see the issue?
No, let's
Okay. Alright. Then we need to go back. Thanks. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so in our Ansible directory back at home, we have, again, shown class.yaml. We're going to tell it to use the role common, and we're going to do the exact same thing we've always been doing. Ansible playbook, class.yaml. And hopefully all this stuff was set up right. We'll find out.
Yeah, right there.
You don't have to do anything different.
Nope, we already changed.
Oh, it's the first time there.
There.
What?
Also, name.
I'm in the wrong directory.
Yeah.
So yeah, we
You're good.
That file was actually right.
this hasn't done much different. And again, like literally, if you look, everything should be green down the board because it's literally checking that it's exactly the state that we just made it.
Should be.
And again, the idempotence of do this, but make sure it's just exactly what I want, not repeating installs. We don't need to reinstall stuff if it's already installed.
So it doesn't do it.
Yep. And that's specifically if something does need to be removed,
So
the change will show.
So could you do versions, like when you do apt-get install, can you make sure that it's at least this version or
Yes.
a certain version?
Absolutely. In fact, there's nice documentation for that.
Okay.
So looking at like the apt specific module, you can say, which one? Yeah, here we go, state. You can always do latest, which is nice.
Okay.
Or you can do present, and I think it's the. I think you can actually do the fully qualified version name in that.
Okay. So that way they can all at least be that version.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's put all the options on their separate lines and use polls. He also did that.
Yeah, here we go. You can apparently you can even use wildcards if you want to always use version 1.0 star. You can just trust anything higher than that, or you can do exactly specific 2.7.12 Python.
I was wondering if there was somebody written that.
And again, one of the interesting things too, you have a lot of flexibility with how you name things. I personally like the name thing just because it's convenient. It's a repeated pattern throughout Ansible. But instead of configuring it as a name in roles common, instead of saying name here, we could have also said package, and it would treat it the exact same way. They're aliases of one another. So again, whatever makes the most sense to you in your file, do that. But establish a convention and stick with it, so that way you're not having to try to figure out what things are doing in between. And again, that's why I specifically like name, because name is used as a very common pattern throughout a bunch of the different modules. Okay, so we did some interesting stuff. We installed some packages, we removed some packages. We then made sure that, when we did it again, we didn't have anything changed. So that's all well and interesting, but let's actually do something cool now. Okay, so, roles, comment, tasks, security. You can't do this. 1 second. Cool. Security. There we go.
It's interesting to mention.
Right. Okay.
Do we need to put all this in, or?
Yes.
What is it called? Security?
That's under.
This is going to be, beside your other tasks, this is going to be a security.yaml file. And the name doesn't specifically matter. You can, again, make it as descriptive or least descriptive as you want. One of the other conventions that I specifically do when I'm going into some of these submodules, I will specifically put a tag in there, so when I'm reading the output back from the playbook, I know exactly what stuff is doing what information. So I know this one is specifically coming from the security piece. More screens.
Yes. So I think those screens are. The only thing I said was right through saying he actually bought one of those USB screens.
Oh yeah.
Get the additional.
So I'm also going to push all this stuff up to GitHub. And that way, actually, let me do that really fast. That'll be easier. Just in trying to type everybody.
Yeah, let's just do that. I'm just going to pull off that.
They didn't really ask why, but they asked.
Here. We'll walk through this in just a second. All right. Right there.
Oh,
all right. If you get the repo again, the security YAML file is up. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, this is again one of my very common security setup files. I've used this in a couple of different ways. The main thing we're going to do is something a little bit insecure to start with, and that's disable the firewalls. It gets a little bit screwy for trying to manipulate firewall rules while we're in the middle of actually manipulating them across SSH. So it's easier to simply disable the firewall to start. And Ansible Documentation. Okay. So yeah, the UFW module is what manages the UFW firewall. And that is just some nice kind of aliasing stuff in front of IP tables, if I remember correctly. So, a bunch of the pretty standard firewall rules can be created through the UFW module: incoming, outgoing, restricting from IP, from port, on specific interfaces, specific protocols. One of the really interesting ones, which I learned about actually through working with UFW on Ansible, is the limit rule. What that will allow you to do is rate limit the amount of incoming connections. So you can, I think it's, I have a note in here because it's useful. 6 and 30 seconds is the default for the limit. So if someone is specifically trying to hammer your box, it'll put in a block rule for a little while to let them not hit your box. So that way, I always use that with the SSH rule, simply because I don't want people randomly SSHing into my server and brute forcing my keys. It would be hard anyway, but just in case, layers of security. So the other standards, we're going to, by default, deny all incoming traffic. We're going to allow all outgoing traffic. We're also going to delete any existing SSH rules while we do this. And this is also why we disable the firewall to start with, so we don't horrifically screw everything up. And we're going to replace it with just that one single SSH rule to make sure that all SSH traffic goes in the way that we want it to go in. We specifically, there's some aliasing stuff, which is pretty nice here. SSH is an alias for the port 22, obviously, but you can specifically tell whatever random port that you actually want there. And specifically, SSH always uses TCP, so we can specifically tell it only accept TCP traffic on this particular port and limit it. And we also set it to log, so anytime that limit gets hit, it writes it out into our actual auditing trail, which is nice. Super useful. And then when we're finally finished, we re-enable the firewall to make sure everything is actually still up and running. All right. So let's run that. Ansible-class. Playbook class.yaml. Whee! And away we go.
Oh, so you still run the class on?
Yep. Still do everything we just did. Oops. Except one more piece.
What? You didn't update common.
I forgot to tell tasks to also include.
See, I tried to run this straight security instead of. Oh wow.
So if you, there is a way to do that. I don't remember the exact syntax.
Okay.
But because of where we have all of our individual pieces, it gets a little bit screwy. You could actually do as another thing I've done just for testing. In class.yaml, we could simply put back the tasks include and then file name piece, and then comment out the pieces that you don't care about. And actually, for this one, roles comment tasks. That would allow you to run individual pieces while you're testing it without having to specifically look through and rerun a bunch of pieces that are not going to change anything.
Yeah.
So, quick development task. Otherwise,
The name of that common or class. Yeah, class. And it needs to be roles common.
Yep. You don't need the other ones. It's just for your edification.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Split. Tasks. Make sure your main.yaml looks like this to include both common and security. It also understands where it's at in the present directory, so you don't have to specifically tell it /, you don't have to specifically tell it anything. It knows the convention, again, exactly where stuff's at. You can specifically tell it to go outside of itself, but that kind of defeats the whole purpose of using the convention over configuration, so just use that same directory if possible. Okay. All. Everybody good?
No.
Almost. No. What's going on?
Who's from?
Hey.
You need help?
Yeah.
You got it?
Okay, yeah.
All right, cool. So, playbook, class.yaml. Yeah, everything's deprecated. Shut up.
Real fast, can you just cat the class?
Class shouldn't have changed. I was just kind of screwing it to show other stuff. The stuff. Also, yeah, it's not actually a good point. Anything that's got a pound sign in front of it is a comment, so you can just put whatever you need in there to give yourself notes or whatever else. Or if you want to bounce back and forth between a couple different types of things, either one. Cool. So, yeah, you should see things change. So, apparently the firewall was off by default, which is kind of terrible, but that's okay, not a big deal. As a good test, let's go ahead and SSH into one of our servers to make sure that it still works. There. So here we are. So we have rules. And, yeah. Actually, let's go back. We can do UFW. What's the command for that? UFW. Shut. Hang on. See what happens doing live demos. Forget things in the middle of stuff. UFW status. There we go. There we go. So you can see that the rules are specifically active only for port 22 to allow the limiting incoming traffic. Hooray! Set the state up. Good for us. Alright, off that box. Back to control. Alright. What are the really interesting stuff we should do?
And the other thing I was going to try was the Ansible playbook, but if you're still on this, you've done firewalls, you've done...
Yeah, that's...
Try changing the configuration file.
Which...
So just grab like sudoers. Try your sudoers.
Hi.
I'd like to make an announcement.
Feel free to make an announcement.
Okay. There are cookies at the Greenbrier desk. I just realized that. Remember that. And no, you can't get them now. No, I'm just kidding.
No, there's a
Now, we also
Last
have
time we waited, we didn't get anything. I mean...
We also have a... Huh? Oh, the cookies are gone? Oh, good joke. So we've got a challenge, a lockpick challenge. There are 6 lockpicks. Whoever does it fastest gets a prize from infusion points. So they're giving away a Raspberry Pi Zero-W starter kit or a Pi 3. So whoever wins will get their choice. But you have to register at the registration desk, and we're going to do it around 3. So, okay?
Cool. All right. Yeah, everybody go get cookies really quick.
There were none. There are none.
Yeah, hang on.
There's.
You social engineering. I feel hurt and I feel lied to.
Yeah, same.
I feel like this is how trust gets eroded right here.
It is.
This is how social engineering works. You felt trusting, and then you feel lied to.
You do. You absolutely
No.
do.
They're absolutely cookies. The cookies are there. It's cool. Good cookie. Greenbrier desk, which is out into the left, I think.
They just scored us living. We waited.
What did he do?
He's about to be
Oh, nice.
Ever since I left
Yeah.
You think? I'll see.
Everyone just went to get cookies, so if you can't find them here, they're probably at the Greenbrier desk.
No, we're just making fun.
Okay.
We went to the wrong place. We're leaving you.
That's awesome.
What you learning? Are you learning how to program?
Yeah. Really cool stuff here.
So, okay, hold on.
You and Nina?
My email address, HT Fenner.
Oh, yeah, your main problem.
No, just text it. Just text it. You just text it.
I you have plenty to.
No, I kept saying, you can just text it to me.
It's alright, I was only about telling my priorities.
Like that.
That's ideal. That's ideal for me.
I'll send you that scan result.
You should be able to right click and hit paste, right? Just right click and hit paste.
What kind of web address is that?
Oh, maybe right click on the top end of the latest. Yeah. Control shift. I know how Linux is control shift.
No, I'm talking. We're not laughing.
We haven't even put anything in yet.
Yeah.
I just gathered it for them to be able to put it in.
We'll do one more thing here because we're actually just about out of time.
Are you saving on your laptop or are you writing it down?
I'm emailing it to them. Oh, okay. If you want to add that.
Up on the GitHub, there is now one more role, which is web server.
Listen, I just grabbed low hanging fruit. That's all I do.
I can't
Looks like at
copy
least one of them you're on. I'm just saying.
Are we supposed to copy the
Copy the web server role down into yours. You should just be able to do a update from GitHub, and it'll get your stuff there.
Take a screenshot.
Got PHP in it even?
What is it?
Boom.
More flags? Cool. So we need to.
Those are the ones on there. We have plans for screwing people.
Well, there's only two up right now. That's one of them is held by
Okay. In your class.yaml, we also need to do this really quick and add in one more task, which is configuring the web servers. We're specifically going to tell it to only use hosts of web servers. Same thing of become and become method, but our web servers hosts only get the web server role. It also still inherits this common role from up here because all hosts get that right there. But it also gets the web server role. Okay. Ansible playbook. Class.yaml. Whee! And away we go. I'll push that up in just a second to get stuff set up. Host matched. Because it's web server, not web servers. One more time. With gusto. There we go. And you can see specifically also, when you're doing these individual roles, it will tell you inside of this, it is executing the common role. And over here, it's executing specifically the web server role. And then whatever default information we have put in the actual task name gets put after the colon.
Yeah, I have good information on that.
So again, you can see that we have gone through, and it will still execute on specifically the servers that we care about. So since our .11 is our web server, there are more things that are done on it, because this is specifically the web server role we've assigned to it finally. So we specifically installed Apache and PHP, restarted it, and then made sure that we allowed traffic through the web server. So, what was it?
Can I see the class file?
Yes.
It's on the hub too, isn't it?
Let's see.
Kind of hard to hear when there's 12 conversations.
Yes.
There are also seem to be gaps in the walls.
Let me quickly push up that update to the class file. Push. Okay, updated class YAML is on GitHub now. We live in interesting times. We just push things out in the entire world. And they can pull it right back down. Right in the middle of a demonstration. A live demonstration even. It's crazy. I love living in the future. And again, we can just rerun this as many times as we want and just see all the pretty colors scroll by. So the enabling and disabling the firewall should always show changed. Actually, it's not really roles.
You could still check.
Sorry, what?
And check the present.
There are absolutely ways to do that, but again, because the way that I set up the firewall rules of changing SSH stuff in between, and with Ansible relying on SSH stuff to be there, you can actually do this a whole lot more intelligently. This is actually a fairly stupid demo of this. You can specifically check firewall rules before you do it. Kind of like with the Ansible facts, you can generate and capture return values from certain commands. So you can do like that UFW status that I did and pull back the output of that command and save it into Ansible. And then you can parse it out, you can make decisions based on outputs of commands, you can do a whole lot more stuff with it. Kind of a dumb demo from this. It's basically just showing, getting you up and running with your very first playbook.
Yeah, I understand. Which is awesome.
Tasks. Security. Yeah. Okay. So also specifically for the web server, notice that I'm not disabling or enabling the firewall. I don't feel like there's any really big risk with enabling the let's see. So we created this. Okay. This Apache full is a specific UFW named profile. It's just available, and it allows all of Apache's standard stuff through the firewall, which is really nice. But because we're not specifically enabling or disabling our main method of communication into the server, then I don't feel like disabling and re-enabling the firewalls. There's actually other stuff you can do. There's the notify.
For like if you want to do a handler?
Yes. So there's a handler mechanism. That was the word I was looking for.
Okay.
There's a handler mechanism that you can also do. You can set tasks and have handlers complete either when it succeeds or fails. You can also do a bunch of basically try-catch kind of logic within playbooks. You can do blocks. You can do, it's actually a try-catch always. You can do different stuff for cleanup in case something does go wrong. There's just a huge amount of flexibility within the tool itself. Back up. Actually, I got a couple minutes left. Anybody got questions? Let's start with that. Comments, threats.
Have you done any of it with the Windows side of it, where you configure the Windows machines?
I have not.
You have not. Okay.
How I actually got started with this was laptop. I don't do this professionally. He does. But I had a laptop that kept getting kind of worked up from different stuff I was working on, and I'd have to keep re-imaging it, and it would take me like a day to get everything set back up because I'd have to go and figure out what all I had. And, I was like, it's 2017. How is it still taking me a day to set up a laptop? That's insane.
Yeah.
So I went and actually looked and found Ansible, and it's like, oh, I can just configure my machine with a single button. That's exactly what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you set up all kinds of stuff like that.
Yep. And I mean now, literally all I have to do is pull down my main Ansible configuration for my laptop. I've got a GitHub server, a GitLab server sitting in my house that allows me to just clone the information that I care about directly, and then it will just do all of this install stuff for me, so I don't have to worry about it. And then as I'm going through and adding new functionality to the laptop, I originally did this actually a little over a year ago, so I guess it was 2016, and whatever. But the big thing was the additional functionality was just an extra couple of lines in the config file. So anytime from there on, things I care about, not just random thing I installed just for kicks and jollies and trying to play with stuff. Anything I specifically continued to use got added into that config file and then committed into Git, so I never had to look at it again. And again, actually just got this laptop a few weeks ago, so it was like, oh, well, I got a new laptop. It's like, hey, Ansible, that's great, let's do it. So it's just so much nicer to be able to automatically configure basically anything with a single button push. But again, that was also even before I think they had the Windows functionality in Ansible.
They've done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll show you guys. I was really trying to burn this out and hopefully get it to the Git before we end it here. But I'll show you guys. So like if you scale this up, and hopefully I don't have to play too much on my display to get this to actually work.
Hey.
It just gets me.
It gave you dual screen.
Okay, excellent. So I'll show you this super quickly, which is not going to work if you can't see it.
That is light switch.
That's on. You just turned on this like. Yeah.
Gee. Well, that way to make lights go.
You were the.
This one?
Yeah.
Hey, look at that.
Awesome, thank you.
God.
Don't die, there are wires everywhere.
Okay, so really quickly, I know this is really hard to see, but with Vagrant, one of the other things that you can actually do is kick an inline script immediately upon provisioning. So when I provision, first thing I do is echo my public key into my authorized keys on that box, so that I can Ansible right off my box. And I can also run a couple other stuff. So in this case, I ran a sudo apt-get update, sudo apt install, and then I threw Ansible Docker, make git and python.pip on there, then I pip install Docker Py, clone down the AWX repo, and upgraded Ansible. And what that's doing for me in the background on this tab is I'm actually installing AWX, which is a playbook. And what the playbook is building is a web management console for Ansible that will offer me an API. It'll offer me role-based access control, offer me credential storage. So it goes into AWX and doesn't come back out. So you have API keys or passwords or SSH keys. They can all get stored up there. This is the free and open source upstream version of Ansible, how we're meant to manage all of this. So you take your playbooks and your inventories, and it lets me handle a bunch of stuff, different stuff, because I handle servers for different people, including myself. And sometimes I want to bounce around inventory files. It gives me a centralized way to do it. So that's what's happening here, and that's actually building on my machine as we speak. And then if you come over to this one, oh, that's fine. Okay, that's this one. That's just that. Let's see if I can get back over here. So this is what AWX is. I have to apologize, it's coming over my VPN, but this is actually what AWX looks like. And so when you start this up, it's a container, and it's installed with Ansible. So if you guys want to take this to the next level, it is available on GitHub, and literally all you do is pull it down, and it starts doing all the container management and everything for you. And like I said, you can go all the way through. It's got a dashboard. It'll show you where your jobs fail. So if you want stuff running on cron jobs in your home lab, you want to provision and destroy, you can. You can schedule, so you get a that cron-like aspect of the whole thing. Do some, you can do credentials, so you can throw all sorts of stuff in there. Do different inventories, template some stuff out, and it's really useful, especially if you work with other people, to give them the access when they might not know as much as you do. So that's Ansible Power.
Thank you guys for coming.